Welcome to the Week in Review, our weekly roundup of the 10 biggest stories shaping the Gambia and beyond. I am Mamadou Mbouch, and joining me in the studio today is a familiar face and voice to many of you. Aliou Cisse, my colleague and the presenter of State of Affairs, QTV's flagship current affairs program. Aliou, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbouch. It's a pleasure to be on the program this week. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And also in the studio is Mr. Lamin Sonkom. He's our sign language interpreter. You know, Aliou, before we get into the program, I really didn't appreciate how significant, how important it was for us to have a sign language interpreter until I went to the national dialogue. And I remember the woman, I can't remember her name now, unfortunately, but when she got up, very articulately made the point.
Exactly.
For why, really, how significant it was, because a lot of people are really relying on it to get the news.
It's important, like you rightly mentioned. I can remember, during the national dialogue, it was something that she really emphasized. And from her voice, you could understand that she is really passionate about, having, sign language, not just for Week in Review, but even our daily news bulletin is good that we have sign language, because they believe they are part and parcel of our society, and they also need to know what is happening in country. And I think this is something that every media house, of course, should consider having in their daily news broadcast, to have a sign language interpreter, because it is important, because they are part of us and they also need to know what is happening.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there. Well, this week we unpack some major developments. The Supreme Court commutes Yankuba Touré's death sentence. The country validates its first national land policy. And there's a closely watched by-election in Banjul's half-die ward. Also in the spotlight, Ajib Bank partners with the Accountant General's office in the bid to boost revenue collection. And CAF finally gives the green light to our international matches to return to our stadium. We've got a packed program, so let's delve right into it. During the week, two key events really took place regarding our transitional justice process. One happened in the Gambia, and the other one in the US. In the Gambia, Yankuba Touré's death sentence, remember he was sentenced in 2021 for the murder of Ousmane Koro Cissé, was commuted by the Supreme Court. We will go into that. And in the United States, Michael Sankoria, an alleged, before the conviction, an alleged jungler, appears to have been a confirmed jungler according to the court during the week, and he was convicted. Now let's just take a look and listen.
Justice Ba ordered that the death sentence imposed on Touré be set aside, as the death penalty had been abolished under the Death Penalty Act of 1993. She commuted his sentence to life imprisonment. However, the Supreme Court affirmed the lower court's decision that Touré was guilty of murdering Ousmane Koro Cissé in cold blood.
Because our colleague, the correspondent, Babakar Cissé. So right there, gave us the reason why the death sentence was commuted, because at the time that he committed the crime, now we know that, the death sentence was abolished, wasn't it? That was the only reason. But guilty? Oh, surely guilty he was.
Surely guilty he was, and personally I wasn't expecting much from the Supreme Court. I wasn't expecting to say, okay, the ruling by the High Court was wrong. The fact is that, okay, they have now, changed from, death sentence by hanging to life imprisonment. For me, it marks a significant moment for our legal history, and it also shows that, the Gambia is committed, to actually reforming its justice system and moving towards, abolishing the death penalty, but equally to ensure that, as you said, the transitional justice, crimes that were committed, these complex issues are equally addressed in court. Yes, it was his right to appeal, which he did. He has followed the due process, from the start to now where we are. That's it. That's the law for you. There's nothing much we can do. The Supreme Court is the highest court, if I'm right. So, if they take this, this decision, to, just make minor changes to the fact of the matter remains that, he's going to remain in prison.
Absolutely. So here, though, the fact that they had commuted their sentence, some would call it a technicality. I think lawyers call it a technicality. But generally, should we have the death sentence sort of operative in our books?
No, I would say no. I mean, these are things that, I mean, human rights activists, human rights advocates are against that. I mean, death penalty shouldn't be in our laws, and so that's the more reason why the Supreme Court, I mean, decided to depend on this, just to commute. I mean, that part of the ruling at the High Court. So, for me, it shouldn't be in the court. I mean, life imprisonment is enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Yankuba Toure, his case is quite interesting as well, because you do hear, you know, in conversations and discussions about his case, people tell you that there are people who have committed. Actually, the people who had appeared to the TRRC and said to have committed so much. Yeah. Those people today are free, but look at Yankuba. He is the one in jail. Quite curious.
Yeah, I think for Yankuba, he must have been misled by perhaps people who perhaps are friends or who are lawyers who might say, you know what, you know, you are protected by this particular section of the law. So in this case, you know, I mean, you can go and testify if you wish. But that was the biggest mistake, I mean, he made. I mean, like you said, I mean, many have testified before the TRRC, the likes of Sana Sabali, the likes of Edward Singate, they all testified. I mean, as we speak, they are free for now. I mean, but then I know as we progress, I mean, there might be brought to justice, but I mean, like you said, I mean, he could have just testified like any other person and said whatever he knows. But the fact that he was denying, I mean, that, you know, he wouldn't testify, he was protected, and then for me that wasn't a smart move for him, because he was trying to challenge the authority of the TRRC, and here he is now, I mean, in jail. I mean, those who testified, as like I said, for now they are free, but that's it for you.
Absolutely. From there, the one that happened in the United States, Michael Sankoria, former jungler, mentioned in the TRRC testimonies a few times, to say the least. Now in the U.S.,
yeah, like you
caught
said,
within the net.
Michael Sankoria, I mean, tried within 5 days, and then they were able to conclude the case, and then, you know, handed the ruling that he was found guilty on all the charges that he was charged under. And like you said, I mean, he was miles away from the country. I mean, but that shows that, I mean, justice anywhere, I mean, injustice anywhere in the world is, you know, can be tried around the world. I mean, that's what the U.S. depend on. I mean, they have the laws that, you know, give them, you know, that right to try people for committing, I mean, serious crimes in their home country. And in the case of Michael Sankoria, that's what happened. I mean, and then in 5 days he was tried, and then, I mean, the court has ruled that, you know, he's found guilty.
The speed of
even
the
though,
trial.
Exactly.
A few people mentioned that and said, wow,
so, I mean,
what a system.
Just look at that. If this was perhaps in the country, just look at the case of Yankuba Toure. It took us almost like how many years, I mean, that trying the case. I mean, so this shows that, I mean, the issue of having, you know, that, I mean, you know, speedy trial, I mean, is important. Even though, yes, as we speak, Sankoria, you know, has the right to appeal the verdict, but even with that, I don't expect much to change. I mean, what depends now is for us to wait and see. I mean, what the judgment will be. I mean, the sentencing aspect of it. That's we have to wait and see. Is he going to serve his sentence in the United States, or are they going to, I mean, deport him back to the Gambia, because already, you know, he has overstayed his visa in the United States. So that's something that we also need to wait and see. But for me, it's a big win for the victims of these crimes. I mean, it's a victory. I mean, for those who have lost their loved ones, I mean, during this, I mean, period.
That's it, but the sentence is likely to be stiff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Found guilty on 6 counts, and each carries the possibility of 20 years.
20 years, so that might be like 120 years.
Something like
so
that.
even if you are, even if you are reborn today, I doubt you can survive 120 years. So.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Sise. So now to our next point, to our next story. Vice President Mohamed Jallow presided over the 23rd annual meeting of ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, EBID, held in the Gambia. Let's just listen to him here.
I recognize the previous support that the Gambia has received, especially in rural electrification, to increase access to electricity in rural areas. However, my government is concerned with the present EBIT portfolio in the Gambia. Currently, about 4 government projects are under consideration. I'm calling on the President, Danko, and team to expedite and expand their operations in the Gambia.
That was the Vice President there. I suppose the key thing that happened there was the $10 million facility, wasn't it, for food security, job creation, and all the rest of it. Let's just have a little discussion on the significance of this. Really.
To start with, it's a big thing for the country, for Gambia to host such a meeting. I mean, it shows that, I mean, we are critical players as far as the operation and, and the functioning of the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development is concerned. But equally, I mean, the key takeaway from this meeting was the $10 million that they have signed, I mean, with the Gambia to help, I mean, promote our food security. It's a good thing, but I mean, what happened next after signing, I mean, $10 million? I mean, how is it going to impact on ordinary Gambians? I mean, that is something that we have to wait and see. I mean, it's good on the headlines that, Gambia has received this from EBIT, but I mean, how they utilize the funds is something that we also need to follow up to ensure that, I mean, these funds are put into the right places and it benefits the right people.
That's, isn't it? That is sort of our problem, the accountability mechanism in place to make sure that the funds go to where they're supposed to go, and you have a proper prioritizing scheme where they should go where they are most needed, isn't it?
And that's the most important thing, because when you look at the Gambia from former President Jawara's time to now, I mean, we have received several fundings from different organizations, I mean, supporting different sectors in this country. But when you go back to most of these sectors, I mean, you begin to wonder where have they spent this money on? Or even the quality of the projects implemented are not projects that will last long. I mean, you go back to, for example, in the agriculture sector, I mean, you go back to the provinces, you look at most of these projects that we have funded there. I mean, once the project phased out, that's the end of it. So, I mean, most of the benefits is only limited to those who spearhead the project. I mean, so that becomes a problem in this country, and the issue of sustainability is a problem. I mean, once the project phased out, that's the end of it. Sustainability is something that we should really work on, and then whatever we're doing, it should be, for me, it should be a bottom-top approach. I mean, engage the people that you are targeting, know what their needs are, then that will guide you in getting exactly what they need. I mean, you don't decide for me, I mean, what you think is best for me. Come engage me and ask me what what I think is best for me. But if that doesn't happen, then it's more like bottom-top approach. You decide everything at the top, and you just impose it on the people.
Absolutely. And here, when we put that in the context of now aid is going to dry up, because we've seen in the traditional donors, we've seen what's going on there. They're cutting the aid budget to finance their defense budget. So they've changed priorities now. So, but this is it. We understand that the bank has been very good at mobilizing money, and this is the key. Most of us will start relying on such funds, as it were, for our development schemes.
Yeah, you're right, because according to my understanding is that the bank was able to, I mean, mobilize resources to, amounting to $383 million US. That's from 2023 to 2024. And even when it comes to its profitability, I mean, it has, I mean, rose from, I mean, by 12.86%. I mean, that is almost like, I mean, 8.5 million US dollars. So the bank is doing well. I mean, my only problem is, I mean, when they extend this support, I mean, they should ensure that at least these funds are put into the right place.
Yes, definitely. So, but the other bit as well for us, debt sustainability, isn't it? As sort of grants would be drying up, perhaps our funds will come in from borrowing, wouldn't it? Yet we are paying so much. Really,
we are paying so much because of we are paying so much because of what is happening now. I mean, the dollar is depreciating, and for example, if I have to take a loan, I mean, maybe $100 million US. If I have to pay the loan maybe in the next 5 years, I'm not going to pay going by today's rate of the dollar.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay based on what is existing. Maybe perhaps, I mean, loans that we are taking during former late Jawara's time, I mean, if the government has to pay that money now, they wouldn't pay us to, looking at the rate at the time.
Yeah.
So they have to pay, looking at the rate now. So that is really, increasing our debt, and people wouldn't understand. That's a main factor as far as, I mean, the debt is concerned. But like you said, I mean, we should be innovative in the way we go about securing funding for our projects.
But this is the key, isn't it? With all these daggers, if you like, ranged against you, what room do you have to maneuver?
Exactly. I say exactly.
So it's a difficult one,
so
isn't it?
You don't just go around taking loans left, right, center in the names of just, we want to implement projects. But I mean, take loans in a way that, I mean, it's not going to affect you or it's not going to affect the country in the future.
Thank you very much there, Aliu. Now to our next story. The Gambia Revenue Authority held its annual tax awards. Let's just listen to this one of the winners.
Before we sign our salaries, we sign the taxes we owe to the government. This is an obligation. And this certificate, you see, the award you see, is, for me, is one of the most important, if not the most important award we receive every year. It's not like any other award. I think the president and the government and the GRA recognizing that we have paid our taxes on time, we are compliant with the tax laws in the Gambia, I think there is no award which is better than this award. I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency the President for creating the enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
Yes, Aliu, that was the CEO of QCell, Mr. Mohamed Jah, and he said some very interesting thing there, that before he pays the staff, first he has to pay the taxman.
Yeah, like you said, it's important because, I mean, in a country that we will say, okay, it's a tax-based, or others will say it's a cash-based, I mean, economy. I mean, paying tax is important. And you mentioned about the issue of, we are now facing donor fatigue. I mean, we're seeing what is happening around the world. I mean, so it is high time that countries start to be more innovative and countries start to mobilize domestically. I mean, they need the resources, but equally put these resources into the right place. And having QCell, I mean, like I said, I mean, winning this particular category as the most compliant GSM company in terms of, I mean, paying their taxes and on time, it is something which is commendable. And I hope, I mean, other companies as well, not just the, those in the ICT sector, but all companies, should be inspired, I mean, and learn from this to ensure they're able to pay their taxes on time. Like you said, I mean, this is the 7th edition, and then this is the 4th edition that the president has attended, I mean, the awards. And GRA, I mean, which is mandated under law to collect, I mean, taxes for national development, is targeting $23 billion this year. So on average, they're telling us, okay, every month they will collect nearly $2 billion. And last year, the target was $19.2 billion. They exceeded that. They collected almost like over $20 billion, which is commendable. But it came about as a result of the ongoing digitization. I mean, we have seen so much reforms happening within the GRA in terms of ensuring that, they don't have that revenue leakage, but equally also to make tax payment more convenient for people. Just by sitting in your office, you can do your file, you can do your tax returns, I mean, online without having to go to the Gambia Revenue Authority to do your payment. So these are all things that are happening. But like you said, I mean, it is important as a Gambian, it's law that, we must pay our taxes. And, tax evasion is a crime anywhere you go in the world. And I hope, I mean, this award ceremony is a good thing for me because it's a good PR for most of the winners, almost all the winners, because just being called out as the most compliant, I mean, in terms of paying tax, is a good thing.
That's it. And if we follow the CEO Mohamed Jah's line of thinking, really, it's that with companies, obviously you have to make profits, otherwise you'll go under. But again, there's also a social conscience, isn't it? It is that social conscience that should make you pay your taxes, especially given the kind of economy, given the kind of country that we have without the citizens. actively participating in this the project, independence wouldn't work much. We'll always be disappointed with it.
Also honesty. I mean, you must be honest enough, I mean, to be able to, I mean, file the right taxes and at the right time. I mean, we know, I mean, it used to happen where you have companies, I mean, you have employees, I mean, at the end of the month, you deduct, I mean, the PAYE, and you never send this thing to GRA or even send it to Social Security. It is happening. I mean, you work for a company for how many years after retirement, you go and you don't find anything there, and you begin to wonder, I mean, where have they been taking all that they have been deducting from me? So I think it's also part of honesty, it's also part of, I mean, love for country. Because at the end of the day, I mean, in as much as we expect the government, to usher in more developments, I mean, they also need the resources, and like you said, I mean, donor fatigue. I mean, now things are changing around the world, and when you look at most of the projects that are happening, especially up country, these are funded by our local funds. For example, I mean, the Hakalang roads, I mean, the Kiang West roads, and of course the NBR roads. These are all funded by, I mean, taxes collected by the Gambia Revenue Authority. So it is good that we all pay taxes and then and pay them on time.
Absolutely, and the most difficult aspect of this all is that most companies, the business is mainly informal, you know what I mean, the vast chunk of the market, as it were, is informal, difficult to really collect taxes. With some of us in the formal sector, it's easy, GRA can deal with the company itself and they deduct and give it, and it's very easy. So, isn't it, that's really where the challenge is. So sometimes I sit with some people who are self-employed, they're doing all sorts of work, and then I ask them, do you pay your taxes? And they don't like that when I say that. But this is it, this is what it means really, to expand the base, that's taxation base. All of us giving services, we should really be paying taxes. Electricians, plumbers, that area. There's so many in the informal sector, but you don't really pay direct taxes as we do.
Like you mentioned, I mean, the issue of the informal sector perhaps is something they're working on, but it's good to pay tax because I remember covering one of their, tax seminars, I think last year. And then, they organized a training for this. Gambia Youth Chamber of Commerce, they partnered to organize a training for them on the importance of paying taxes and what are the procedures to take and all those things, which is important because what happens is that if you are into business, at some point, you want to travel to go for a meeting or you want to go for a business trip. You might need that tax clearance certificate from the GRA for your visa application to justify that you are a businessman. And then you have been paying your taxes. So without you paying your taxes, then it's difficult for you to get that tax clearance certificate from the Gambia Revenue Authority. But like you said, it is something. It's a challenge. The informal sector to really
how to
coordinate and how to deal with them and ensure they pay their taxes, especially in a country where, like you said, it's difficult for people to just part away with money. Yeah.
Absolutely. But very quickly, we've addressed that point about taxpayers, citizens generally. But again, when you look at the institutions as well, some of these citizens will tell you, oh, why should we? Because once you put it in, well, they're going to embezzle it. So once you have that breakdown in trust between institutions and citizens and people, maybe that's why you have such cynicism. So there's something to be said for the fact that institutions must try to rebuild trust, because then maybe it will be easier for people to be willing to pay these taxes.
Because it's important. Most of the people, like you said, they would want to pay tax because, it's about the perception. Okay, you believe that, okay, I'm paying the taxes, but where is all this money going to? Especially, with daily reports of corruption here and there. These are things that are also affecting, the government in one way or the other. And then this is why, this is more proactive in ensuring that they're able to build that trust between the government and the public. So once you are able to build that trust, then you'll be able to convince people that, okay, if you pay your tax, we are going to give it back to you through developments and all those things. But once that's not happening, then there's a problem. And these are things that they should really look into, because time will come. To get loans or funding from outside the country is going to be difficult.
Thank you very much there, Alim. Now we go to our next story. During the week, the Gambia validated its first land policy, and it's been touted as a significant milestone in the country's land governance reforms. Let's just listen to this clip.
As stakeholders to this land policy formulation, we seek everybody's participation, because of whatever we put in there, tomorrow during the implementation, it is coming back to us. So let us not put anything like political sentiments or political affiliation into this.
That was Aliu Baji, Director of Physical Planning. So let us not put any political sentiment into this and just see it as a land policy for the country, that cuts across party political divide.
Yeah,
what did you make of that?
As they will say, it's better late than never, but I'm really surprised that as a country, this is going to be our first ever land policy. With all what is happening in the country in terms of land and all those things that, we didn't have any land policy. It is surprising, but like he said, it's about the country, but equally the issue of land is something which is very sensitive. We have seen so many cases in the courts, especially in the West Coast region, as a result of, land grabbing and all those things. Just a couple of weeks ago, we saw what happened in Salaji, where they went to demolish structures and all those things because they believe, those structures were illegally, built there, and then one will question where was the physical planning when all these things was happening. But like you said, it's better late than never. We hope, they wouldn't just stop at developing this policy or having the policy in place, but its full implementation is something that is key here. And without the implementation, it is better than not even having a policy in the first place.
That's and one must really go into the details of this policy. Perhaps in the coming weeks, one would go into the details of the policy, because for a long time, some experts have pointed out the fact that perhaps structurally, there are just so many things in there. There's the Roman law, the civil law, there's traditional methods, you know what I mean? So you have a mixture of legal traditions and even the structure of it. You have the alcalo here and all the difficulties now being exposed, attendant to that sort of thing. So we would hope that structurally they would streamline the whole thing.
Yeah, I hope they do, because like you said, we need to have, a clear policy that tells us, how lands are even allocated in this country. It's surprising sometimes when I see senior government officials being allocated free land, despite, the huge pay they are receiving, yet someone as poor as me is struggling to get a land out there. So these are all things that, that we should look at, because, there must be that equality. It shouldn't just be about those in power or those in high position that should benefit from these things. For example, we saw what happened around Yarambamba, around Yundum, when almost a whole estate was given to National Assembly members who are well paid, who I believe, should be able to afford to buy a land for themselves. We have seen lands being given to state ministers. So, these are all things that, should have been given to those underprivileged, those in the junior cadres who are struggling, to even, get a land, where they will call a home. So these are all things that I think the policies should look into moving forward to ensure at least, whatever is being done is done with equality and, of course, in the interest of everyone and not just to serve few.
Absolutely. Now to our next story. Banjul's Half Thy Ward, voters in Banjul's Half Thy Ward go to the polls on the 26th of April. So here, let's just listen to the PPP candidate.
My chances, of course, I believe in myself personally. And of course, I believe as a team, we can do more than what required to uplift our people, to touch them, to make sure what has been entrusted with us will be fulfilled by Allah's willing. We did this low one for not having any ambience music or whatever, out of respect from the Christian, from our Christian community, because they are observing their Lent, and of course, if it was in Ramadan, we wouldn't have do it. So we give them that respect. So out of that, so we decided to come this way. Of course, we could have pulled more crowd because this is a party, and all people from all walks of life could have come.
As the PPP candidate there, Banjul's Half Thy Ward, the Saliu Jallo. Quite interesting there, a touch of thoughtfulness. Yeah. Said they could have had a fanfare, but they didn't do so because of in respect of the Christians in Lent.
Yes, quite important by-election, especially for the National People's Party, who are still trying to recover from what happened in the Masembu ward by-election. And we have seen UDP has withdrawn from contesting in the by-election because perhaps they have done their survey and they thought, okay, we don't stand a chance of winning here because, I mean, even in the last ward election, it was, I mean, the NPP that won, and then unfortunately, he traveled and absconded. Unfortunately,
that's the reason why we have
exactly. Unfortunately, but I mean, having the PPP also bringing in someone, a young person who I understand, I mean, is very smart, is good at what he does. I mean, it's a good thing. I understand that they're also, you know, having the backing of other political parties.
Like UDP, for
UDP,
instance,
exactly.
because we saw the Mamadou Lamine Ba.
Exactly. So they are all backing this Saliu Jallo guy of the PPP, and it remains to be seen how the NPP. I mean, they are quite convinced that, you know, they are going to win because, I mean, they won in the last election. But we also need to understand when it comes to, I mean, such elections, it is no more about the party; it's about the personality that people looked at. You know, how close are you to the people? So it's going to be interesting. I mean, so they shouldn't just, I mean, sit down and think because they are the ruling party or because they won their, I mean, in the last, I mean, election, I mean, they're going to win it easily. I mean, this is election, so anything can happen. But like you said, it's good that, I mean, PPP is still, you know, showing us that they're alive and, you know, they're in the game.
Yes, and then it's Banjul. But I wonder, it's just a ward election. How significant is it? What's the political mileage in it?
It's significant, especially, you know, with the 2026 election coming up. I mean, it's important. For example, in the event that NPP happen to lose again in the half-die by election, that's going to be a bad signal for them. I mean, just from Masembe, what you lost, half-die, what you lost. I mean, that will send a message. You know what? We need to change our approach. We need to re-strategize, I mean, ahead of the 2026 election. And that is something that the NPP should really, I mean, consider. It is important for them. These are elections. It's more like midterm elections in other countries. So you know, it tests your popularity and how much people appreciate you at the grassroots level.
Thank you very much. We've reached the halfway point of the program, so we'll take a quick break.
It's back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new Q Money app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy Q Power, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send Q Money, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. Q Money, Sinu Calpe. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome to the Weekend Review. If you're just joining us, you've missed 5 stories, but don't worry, we've got 5 more to go. To our next story. During the week, NAWEC held what was called the pre-bid conference as part of the ongoing request for proposals for the 50-megawatt regional solar power park project. Yeah, let's just listen.
50 megawatts regional solar power park is a critical component in expanding our renewable energy capacity and delivering reliable, affordable power to all our communities. We are optimistic that by the end of this year, hopefully, the evaluation processes will be concluded and the selected bidder will be able to commence implementation.
Depending on the outcome of this tender process, the government is ready to roll out more and bigger solar power projects, including the 100 megawatt second phase of this regional solar power project.
That's it. When I heard the word the implementation, said that's really what we're waiting for. But as part of our strategy, isn't it? Solar power will provide much of our electricity needs. That's really the project. You have your fossil fuels, but solar energy. I think what was it? We plan to have what 40%?
Yeah, 40%
of our needs, you know, being provided by renewable energy.
I think they are now understanding that renewable energy is the future, especially for a country like the Gambia. We have the sun. I mean, so why not we go into renewable energy than just like you said? I mean, trying to focus more on generators and fossil fuel, which is, I mean, is becoming more and more challenging. I mean, as we speak now, I mean, they still have some of the generators that are out of service, and because of that, we still have car power here. I mean, they are still trying to get electricity from Senelec in Senegal. But if they're able to, I mean, expand more into renewable energy, that's going to help in actualizing the government's aspiration of getting universal access to electricity by 2025, according to what they said. We are now in 2025, and let's see how it goes. But it's going to help in terms of ensuring reliable power supply in the country.
Absolutely. When you look at the current circumstances, you understand that it will be quite a stretch, really, for us to achieve that in 2025. But this is the pre-bid conference. Apparently, it's good for attracting international investors, solar energy, power companies, as it were. Very much an important part of the process.
Yeah, it's good. They are now trying to be more open and transparent in this whole thing. They have engaged the media in the opening of this whole process. And I hope along the line, they will also continue to engage the media. And I hope, whatever is being done, is done in the best interest of the country, in the best interest of our energy sector. It's one thing to, have this sort of event, invite the media, give us, well-scripted statements. But when it comes to allocating such a project to the right contractor, it's something else. So, but I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I hope, whatever they do, they should make sure they do a proper background research on all these companies or bidders who will be interested in this project, to make sure, we don't regret for taking any of these contractors for such a project.
Thank you very much there, Ali. To our next story. During the week, Ajib Bank signed a deal with the Accountant General's office in a bid to improve revenue collection. Let's just listen.
This partnership, I would say, marks a significant milestone in our ongoing effort to enhance transparency, efficiency, and accountability in public revenue collections. Therefore, I would like to thank both teams, especially the ITs of teams of Accountant General's Department and that of Ajib, for paving this way, really for their commitment, dedication, and collaboration in bringing this agreement to life.
We heard there from the CEO of Ajib Bank, Aissatou Jawara. This is really the key, isn't it? To make certain government payments, you go to Ajib Bank, isn't it?
It's much easier. Mr. Mboj, imagine if you have to make certain payments and then you need to go to the institution to go and pay.
Absolutely.
When you can just take a walk to Ajib Bank and just go and do your payments. It makes life much more easier for people, because at the end of the day, people are so busy. When you come to work, Mr. Mboj, the whole day you're on your laptop doing stuff. So imagine if you have to drive from here to go to a particular office in Banjul just to go and do a payment. So with this, it's going to inspire you more. It's going to motivate you that, I can just take a walk and do my payment, and that's it. So I think it's a good initiative. The Accountant General Department has taken to sign this with Egypt, and I hope, it's going to last long.
Absolutely, and the efficiency.
Exactly.
We do hear about certain government officials having their own receipts.
Exactly. So imagine duplicating receipts, and you are paying and collecting money on behalf of your company or your office, and yet it's going into your personal pockets.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there. We go to our next story. This is about our draft constitution. The Center for Research and Policy Development organized a town hall. Let's just listen to Sid Matijau here at the head.
We need our National Assembly members to listen with humility and legislate with integrity. Our executive leadership to rise above self-interest and embrace statesmanship. Our civil society to remain vigilant, bold, and united. This is not the time for silence. It is time for courage, for vision, and for collective action. We must reclaim the Constitution as our own. Not Barros, not UDPs, not CRPDs, but the people's. Only then it will endure.
Said Matijau there, when I heard that from him, I said, well, they really didn't respect it the first time round. I wonder what will make them respect it. This is our National Assembly members the second time round, because the first time round we all saw what the Constitutional Review Commission did. They went all over the place, talked to everybody. And Afrobarometer surveys also showed that Gambians were largely approving of it. So in the end, it was really the National Assembly that didn't like it, which wasn't quite the same as when you talk about Gambians. They didn't respect it the first time round. Would they second time round?
I doubt, like I said, the chances are very slim that, I mean, this revived 2024 draft constitution will be passed in Parliament. Remember, it was supposed to come in the just ended ordinary session of the Parliament. It was withdrawn and then rescheduled for the next session. Who knows what's going to happen there as well. So maybe, I mean, it's just to give them more time to further negotiate to ensure they're able to reach a consensus to approve, I mean, the draft constitution. But, I mean, we all know what the standpoint of, you know, the United Democratic Party is, I mean, and the National People's Party is. I mean, it came in 2020, NPP and their allies rejected it. UDP was in full support. Now this one is coming back, the NPP and allies are in full support. UDP is saying no. And if you tamper with that one, we are going against it, because this was the one with the CRC developed after a thorough consultation with not just Gambians in the country, but even outside of the country. So what's going to happen? Let's see and wait. I mean, I understand the last time Ibn Chambers was here, he was able to facilitate a closed-door meeting late in the night between the president and the leader of the United Democratic Party. I don't think that's going to change anything. At the end of the day, for me, this is about the country, this is about us, this is about national thing. So we should be able to resolve our own issues than just, you know, every time hiring people coming from outside to come and say what.
That's it. For me, when Mohammed Ibn Chambers, when he came over, I said, whoa, they've sent the diplomatic fixer, if you like, of the sub-region. So we must be in some trouble. This is a stiff one, a difficult one. We'll continue talking about this for God knows how long. Let's move on to our next story. Question, can we grow apples in this country? Traditionally, people will say no. Well, let's just watch this. So,
you never truly know if something will work until you give it a try. That's why we are taking the bold step to cultivate apples in the Gambia. Our goal is not just to grow apples, but to create a new market, one that inspires others to recognize the opportunity and get involved. This is not just a firm, it's a movement aimed at expanding the boundaries of what's possible.
That's the farm manager of Evergreen Farm, Mr. Jawa there. Absolutely fantastic. You're going to try, isn't it? For some reason, they found a way, as it were, to do it. Whereas traditionally, we just didn't. But innovation, you know, you got to be innovative.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. I mean, going through this story, I saw a post by Nyang Yai saying, he actually started this before this man.
All right. So people have known.
You know, he was like, you know, he over-fertilized, the apple tree, and then that was the end of it. But it's a good thing. I mean, for me, I believe, like the guy rightly mentioned, it's going to open new avenues for us to diversify. I mean, the agriculture sector, and thereby at least help us enhance our food security and, of course, fostering that economic growth. But it's also going to inspire other farmers who perhaps believe, apples cannot do well here, and then they also start doing the same. This will also help in our export of course, non-traditional crops in the country.
Absolutely, and this is an area, this is a private farm, isn't it? Evergreen Farm. This is an area where you really need private sector. So how would the government provide the right incentive really for private sector to invest in it? Isn't the key? That's what it is. So we can talk about self-sufficiency in all sorts of areas and start to be growing our own food, but it will depend on whether we've got the right policies in place, the right mechanisms in place to make it work, isn't it? In the end, that's really what it is.
Not just make it work, but also make it affordable. I mean, we can grow in country as much as we want, but if those who are involved are not giving the support to help them subsidize, the prices in the market, we are still going to suffer in this country, even whereas, things are grown in this country. So like you said, the private sector is doing well. What we need now is to get a policy, and also to have the government come in to support them, give them the needed support. And when that happens, then you will be able to see that, the prices will go down, not as things that are important.
So here you talk about, yes, the cost of production.
Exactly, cost of
when
production.
It's so expensive that then it will be more expensive than things we
E-
import.
exactly.
Then there's an issue there.
there's
So
an issue.
potential is there, but it depends on
Depends
how
on-
it is handled.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Aliu. Now we go to our final story. Yes, the Confederation of African Football, they've granted us temporary approval to hold international matches at the stadium. Temporary approval, what does that mean? The minister explains.
Temporary approval means that it's an approval which is subjected to some conditions that we should be able to meet within a period. But in the meantime, we are allowed to play our next two matches, which is the CHAN against Algeria and under 20 against Cote d'Ivoire. But we are asked to purchase the machines that are necessary for the proper upkeep and maintenance of the pitch, whose machines we've explained they are not available, but there's already a procurement process ongoing to purchase them from France, where it is available. And we hope that once those machines come and we're able to do that work and CAF is able to acknowledge that, then will give us a full approval as expected.
We last held the match there in 2021. It has taken us, what, 4 years? Whatever was wrong, it has taken us 4 years to semi-fix, because it's not a clean bill of health. It's only sort of maybe 75%, maybe that sort of thing.
Maybe even CAF gave us this maybe after appeal and all those things, just to make sure we are able to use the stadium. But it's a good thing, and I hope we will take advantage of this. This move by CAF to be able to improve and finalize on things that needs to be done to have Scorpions start to play at home. I know the fans are happy at the moment that finally football is coming back to the stadium after, like you said, 4 years. So it's a good thing, and let's just hope, like the minister said, they're able to get the machines here on time to be able to maintain the pitch.
That's it, and it makes a massive difference, doesn't it? When you have your home matches and the fans. Psychologically, it must have some impact psychologically on the players. Everybody knows that. Sometimes they refer to the fans as the 12th man on the pitch, as it were. It can be that. So it is hugely important. And the last time we played there, I think we beat Angola 1-0, something like that.
So we did.
So our next match...
It's important for the fans, because as a football lover, it's nice, to be on the stands, cheering up, your national team playing. But like 4 years, we only watch on screen, and then at the end of the day, the team will just meet in Morocco or somewhere else, and just few officials from the GFF and who just pack their luggage and join the team, and then that's it. But in the interest of the game, and in the interest of the fans, it is important that we play our home games here in the country.
So our next match there against Algeria, I understand, in the African Nations Championship. This is for the players who play in the domestic league, purely. So I'm sure a lot of people will be looking forward to that. I suspect that we'll have a full house.
Yeah, I hope, because in mostly junior categories do not attract that much crowd.
But the fact that people miss going to the stadium, that sort of thing. Yes. So that's what I suspect.
Should attract more supporters for this particular game.
Absolutely. I think we've come to the end, really, of this program. Thank you very much, Aliu Cisse. It was a pleasure having your insights on some of these stories. And also thank you, Mr. Lamin Sonko, for having you here today. And to our viewers, of course, thank you very much. Until next time, goodbye.